Guys, welcome. Now we are going to continue with the chapter The Mineral Nutrition in Plants. So from the NCERT textbook, we are going to continue with the topic of mineral nutrition about deficiency symptoms of essential nutrients. So let's see the topic. Whenever the supply of an essential elements becomes limited, plant growth will be retarded. Retarded means you will have a stunt growth. So the growth will be very limited. The plant growth will not be very tall. It will be very small, and also you will not have a very proper leaves, flower, and it's not a very well and developed growth. The concentration of essential element below which the plant growth is retarded is termed as critical concentration. Means it is in a critical level. The element is said to be deficient when present below the critical concentration. Means the element itself is not there. Since each element has one or more specific structural or functional role in plants. So, in the absence of any particular element, plants show certain morphological changes. These morphological changes means physical appearance, size, shape changes will be there. That we call it as morphological changes. The morphological changes are indicative of certain element deficiencies and are called deficiency symptoms. So, the deficiency symptoms vary from element to element and they disappear when the deficient mineral nutrient is provided to the plant. So whatever is needed, if provided to the plant will regain the normal growth. However, if deprivation continues, it may eventually leads to death of the plant. So if still it continues, finally the plant will die. The parts of the plants that shows the deficiency symptoms also depend on the mobility of the element in the plant. For elements that are actively mobilized within the plant or exported to young developing tissues. So the deficiency symptom tends to appear first in the older tissues. Next will be the young tissues. For example, the deficiency symptoms of nitrogen, potassium and magnesium are visible first in the senescence leaves. Senescence means old leaves. In the older leaves, biomolecules containing these elements will broken down, making these elements available for mobilizing to younger leaves. So the deficiency symptoms tend to appear first in the young tissues whenever the element is relatively immobile or not transported over the mature organs. Okay, for example, elements like sulfur and calcium are the part of the structural component of the cell, hence are not easily released. This aspect of mineral nutrition of plant is of a greater significance and important to agriculture and horticulture. The kind of deficiency symptoms shown in plants include chlorosis, means loss of green color, necrosis, means death of the leaves, stunt plant growth, means short plant growth, premature leaf fall of the leaves, means so without getting the old age itself, the leaves will fall and buds as usual, and yellowing of the leaves. So, an inhibition of cell division. Chlorosis is the loss of chlorophyll leads to yellowing in leaf. This symptoms is caused by deficiency of elements so like sodium, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, manganese, zinc and molybdenum. Likewise, necrosis or death of the tissue, particularly the leaf tissue, is due to deficiency of calcium, magnesium, copper, potassium. Lack or low level of sodium, potassium, sulfur, molybdenum causes the inhibition of cell division. Some elements like sodium, sulfur and molybdenum delay the flowering of their concentration in plants flowering if their concentration in plants is very low. You can see from the above that the deficiency of any element can cause multiple symptoms, and the same symptoms may be caused by deficiency of one of several different elements. Hence, to identify the deficient element, one has to study all symptoms developed in the various parts of the plants and compare them with the available standard tables. We must also be aware that different plants also respond differently to the deficiency of the same element. Let's see the toxicity of micronutrients. For example, toxicity means increased level also will leads to toxicity. Decreased level will causes the critical value or deficiency. Increased concentration will cause toxicity. The requirement of micronutrients is always in low amounts, while their moderate decrease causes the deficiency symptoms, and the moderate increase will cause toxicity. In other words, this is a narrow range of concentration at which these elements are optimum. Any mineral ion concentration in tissues that reduces the dry weight of tissue by 10% is considered as toxic. Such critical concentrations vary widely among the different micronutrients. The toxicity symptoms are difficult to identify. Toxicity levels for any element also vary for different plants. Many a times, excess an element may inhibit and uptake of the another element. So if one element is more in the plant, it cannot make the plant to absorb the other essential element. For example, the prominent symptom of manganese toxicity is the appearance of brown spots surrounded by chloritic veins, means white veins. It is important to know that manganese competes with iron and magnesium for uptake, with the magnesium for binding with enzymes. Manganese also inhibit calcium translocation in shoot apex. Therefore, excess of manganese may in fact induces deficiency of iron, magnesium and calcium. Thus, what appears as the symptoms of manganese toxicity may actually be the deficiency symptoms of iron, magnesium and calcium. Can this knowledge be some importance to the farmer, gardener or even for you in your kitchen garden? Okay, this is very essential. Let's see mechanism of absorption of these elements. Much of the studies on mechanism of absorption of elements by plants has been carried out in isolated cells, tissues or organs. These studies reveal the process of absorption can be demarcated into two main phases. That is, in the first phase, an initial rapid intake of ions into the free space or outer space of the cells, which we call it as apoplast, is passive. In the second phase of uptake, the ions take slowly into the inner space, the symplast of the cells, means from cells to cells we call it as symplast. If the transport is in between the cells, we call it as apoplast. So this topic is very clearly explained in transport in plants. So how the water, so along with the water only the minerals uptake will be there. So along with that, this transport is also explained very clearly. The passive movement of ions into the apoplast usually occurs through ion channels. So the transmembrane proteins that functions as selective pores. On the other hand, entry or exit of ions and form the symplast from the symplast requires the expenditure of metabolic energy, which is an active process. The movement of ions is usually called flux. The inward movement into the cells is influx, and the outward movement we call it as efflux. You have read this aspect of mineral nutrient uptake and translocation in chapter 11. So this is already seen in the chapter 11. Let's see the translocation of solutes. Mineral salts are translocated to xylem. Through xylem only will transport the minerals also, along with its ascending streams of water, which is pulled up through the plant by transpirational pull. Analysis of the xylem sap, means what are the minerals are present in the xylem sap, shows the presence of mineral salts in it. So use of radioisotopes of mineral elements also substantiate the view that they are transported through xylem. So we have already discussed this topic in the movement of water in xylem. Let's see soil as reservoir of essential elements. So whatever the elements is needed that are present inside the soil. So the majority of the nutrients that are essential for growth and development of plants become available to roots due to weathering and breakdown of rocks. So this process of enriching the soil with dissolved ions and inorganic salts since they are derived from the rock minerals. So their role in the plant nutrition is referred to as mineral nutrition. So soil consists of wide variety of substances. Soil not only supplies the minerals but also harbors the nitrogen fixing bacteria. So other microbes holds the water, supplies the air to the roots and acts as a matrix that stabilizes the plant. Since the deficiency of essential minerals will occur the crop yield, there is often a need for supplying them through fertilizers. Both macronutrients like sodium, potassium, phosphorus, sulfur, etc., and micronutrients copper, zinc, iron, manganese, etc., form a component of the fertilizers and are applied as per the need. Okay, my dear friends, this is all about the toxicity, essentiality, and the essential elements as well as the transport of minerals into the plant body. So I hope you understood the topic. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel for